Hey everybody, I hope you've been looking over your Unit 1 for your big summative coming up tomorrow and Tuesday. I went through and picked out some of the questions on the review, and I'm going to go through them and try to show you how to do them and remind you of some of the key ideas that you should remember. So the first type of problem is our conversions. And remember, you can use calculator on this part, but when you solve conversions, go back to that multiplicative identity where you can multiply anything by 1 and it essentially stays the same. So for the question on 46, it asks you to convert 12 gallons to a certain number of cups. So you start with 12 gallons and they want you to figure out how many cups that is. All right, so let's just go through and multiply by our conversion factor. So if I start with 12 gallons, if I put that over 1, I can multiply by 1 gallon. And if you know how many cups are in a gallon, you can go ahead and multiply by that right away, and that would be fine. There are 16 cups in a gallon, but if you don't know that, let's say that you know that there are 4 quarts in 1 gallon. 4 quarts over 1 gallon, those are the exact same thing. So that has a value of 1. We're multiplying by 1, so it's still the same. So multiply that, and then we're not really interested in quarts, we want cups. So now we need to keep multiplying by our conversions. So now I can do 1 quart is the same thing as 2 pints. I still don't have cups, so then I want to convert that into cups. So 1 pint is the same thing as 2 cups. So then remember, we canceled. If you have the same label top and bottom, it means that they cancel out. So there you get rid of your quarts. There you get rid of your pints. So your label up on top is cups. And what you have on the bottom is just 1. And then you just do your math. You have 12 times 4 times 2 times 2. And if you do that, you end up with 196 cups. So 12 gallons is equivalent to 196 cups. Again, you don't have to go through all of those conversions, because if you do know that there are 16 cups in a gallon, you can just do that right away, because 16 cups and 1 gallon is also a conversion factor, because that equals 1. This whole part, this next part is on proportions, and proportional thinking is huge, because if there's a set rate, if we know that 2 of something costs $4, by using proportional thinking, we can figure out how many 10 should cost. So all you do is set up proportions. On this, it tells you, on number 52, it says that $1 US can be exchanged for 64.15 Algerian dinars. And then it wants to know that if a hat costs $25 in US dollars, what should the price be in dinars? And there was a typo on that review. Sorry about that. It shouldn't say rupees. It should say dinars. So you can set this up a number of ways, but I do know that $1 US is equivalent, or the same thing, to 64.15 dinars. Well, I know that the hat costs $25. So remember just to set it up where your matching pieces of information are either vertical or horizontal to each other, and then you're just solving for this unknown right here. And to solve that, you can just use cross products. So you would take 1 times x, which is beautiful because that's 1x, and then you would take 64.15 times 25, which ends up being 1,603.75. And remember, it's asking how many dinars. Remember, we kind of got lucky on this one because it was just 1x, but if you did have a coefficient in front of x, you would just divide that and finish out what becomes that one-step equation. The next one, remember that day that I drew on the board about square feet and square yards. If I draw 1 square yard, a yard has 3 feet. So if I broke that yard into 3 feet, and if I broke this yard into 3 feet, 1 square yard is the equivalent to 9 square feet. So it's not a super hard conversion to do, if you draw it and think about it. But Yes, 1 square yard is 9 square feet. All right, so it says that your kitchen is 1,500 square feet. You are buying flooring that is sold by the square yard. How many square yards do you need? Well, you need to convert your 1,500 square feet into square yards. So here are your 1,500 square feet over 1, because you can put anything over 1, and then multiply by that conversion factor. So we need feet on the bottom, and there are 9 feet squared in 1 yard squared. So essentially, if you just divide 1,500 divided by 9, you will get your answer. Let's see. So that is 166.6 repeating yards squared. Make sure you're careful with your labels. Unit rates and better buys. I promise you that there will be things that you study in math, but this is one that if you know, you are going to be a much more knowledgeable consumer someday. I use this type of mathematical thinking every single week when I go to the store. So problem number 54 says your shampoo is on sale at Target for 20 ounces for $4.50. At Walmart, it costs $6.20 for $6.20 for 30 ounces. What is the better deal? So this is where you want to find unit rate, and unit rate is finding for 1. This was that problem that a lot of you missed on the formative because you guys put the dollars on the bottom. You don't want to know how much you can get for $1. You want to know the price that you pay per ounce. That has to go on the bottom. So when you set this up, so this first one is $4.50 for 20 ounces, and the other one is $6.20 for 30 ounces. Well, you really want to know if buying that bigger bottle, 30 ounces, is the better deal. Well, remember, you want to find per ounce, so what you're really doing is setting these up as proportions over 1 ounce to get price per ounce. Well, really, even if you do cross products or whatever, essentially what you do is you just take your numerator and divide it by the bottom number, or the denominator. So this first one, if you do the math on a calculator, yes, you get to use calculators, you get 0.225. And over here at Walmart, the $6.20, you get 0.207. Well, if we convert that into cents, because our cents doesn't go out 3 places, this would be 23 cents per ounce. And this one is 21 cents per ounce. And it is a better deal to get the 30 ounces for $6.20 at Walmart. All right, when I introduce the flagpole, the trees, the buildings, the ladders, all of those shadow problems, I promise you that it would be on any major math test that you take from here on out. The NISA, the ACT, all of those. Really what I would do, I would suggest drawing a picture, because you'll see then that this is just a similar figure problem. So if I draw a picture of that first one, you have a tree that is, or you don't know how tall it is, but it casts a shadow 12 feet long. So that's the shadow along the ground. And then this is how tall your tree is. And then you have this guy, and he casts a shadow 1.5 feet long. And it says that he is 6 feet tall. Well, we didn't even really get into the specifics of this, but if you have, the shadow is caused by the sun, and the sun is always going to cast a shadow at the exact same angle, to every single object on Earth. So this is a similar figure, and to solve similar figures, you use proportions. Remember, lots of different ways you can set it up. You just have to make sure that you match corresponding pieces of information either vertically or horizontally. So one way that you could do this, it wants to know how tall the tree is, so I'm going to call it X. So I could set this up as X is to 12. And remember, I started here and went to this one, so I would need to do that the same thing. I would have to start with this one on the top and put that one on the bottom. So 6 to 1.5. The other thing that you should do or could do is maybe label which one is your height, which one is your shadow, so that you see that it matches up. So from here, just solve the proportion. Remember, you solve that using cross products. So you would take 12 12 times 6, and divide that by 1.5, and you, again, will be able to use calculators on this. And the height of that tree then is 48 feet. Remember that your label is really important, so don't forget your label.